Good afternoon. Today is Tuesday, February 9th, approximately 4 o'clock in the afternoon. I'd like to call this Board of Bay County Commissioners to order. If you would take roll, Madam.
Taranchuk?
Here.
Begic?
Here.
Coonan?
Here.
Barrett?
Here.
Tilly?
Here.
Lutz?
Here.
Krieger?
Yes.
All members accounted for, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much. We'll stand for the invocation and then the pledge.
Almighty and eternal God, Governor of all things in heaven and on earth, we ask that you will bless this county commission this day. We ask that you lead and direct this board to work for this county, and that you grant them the knowledge and understanding of the needs for this community. In your holy name we ask this. Amen.
I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. All right, we'll move into the minutes. What's your pleasure?
Motion to approve. Support.
Any discussions on the minutes? With none, all those in favor signal by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Now comes the time for citizens' input. This would be an opportunity for anyone who wishes to address the board.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Chairman Krieger and the rest of the commissioners. My name is Mary McCary, and I work as a biologist at Mosquito Control. And we were asked, or I guess Tom was asked at some point in the last week, to just give a brief overview of Zika virus today. So, I won't take too long, but just wanted to talk about it. We put together a double-sided flyer, a data sheet that has some information about Zika, and I'll pass that out. I'll give you this off, that's okay. Just basically, it gives a background about Zika. Many of us have been hearing about it on the news. I listen to NPR a lot. It's on, I think it's like the major news story almost on NPR or any of the major news stations. So this gives you a little bit of background. But just to summarize, it's a virus that's spread to people by mosquitoes, specifically by the Aedes aegypti and the Aedes albopictus mosquitoes, which we currently do not have in Michigan. However, there's also evidence of transmission from a mother to a fetus, through sexual partner, through blood transfusion, or even a lab exposure. So there are other ways to get Zika, but primarily it's through the bite of the mosquito. And we think about mosquito-borne diseases and the ones that we've dealt with over the last 25 to 30 years, West Nile virus, which is more recent, but St. Louis encephalitis, Eastern equine encephalitis. These are all viruses where the human is the dead-end host, meaning if I have, if I get the virus and a mosquito takes blood from me, it cannot pass the virus on to somebody else. So in the case of most mosquito-borne diseases that we think about, the humans are the dead-end host. But with Zika, it's a little bit different in that if I get it and the mosquito takes blood from me, it can pass it on to somebody else. So humans are no longer the dead-end host. We can go from mosquito to human and spread that way. So 1 in 5 people infected with Zika will have symptoms, and the most common are pretty mild, just fever, rash, joint pain, and conjunctivitis, which is red eye. So it's a pretty mild illness, so to speak, and I haven't heard of any deaths associated with Zika. The symptoms last from a couple days to a week. Someone with Zika is contagious during the first week of infection, so it's important to avoid mosquito bites during that time. That's easier said than done, however, because a lot of people that get Zika, like I said, 1 in 5 show symptoms, so 4 in 5 don't show symptoms, so they're asymptomatic, and so they don't even know they have the infection. So that's, I think, one of the challenges that we'll face with Zika. The World Health Organization, if you look at that flyer on the back, there's a map that shows the distribution of Zika highlighted in red, and it shows that 26 countries in South America, Central America, and the Caribbean are currently having ongoing Zika transmission. The U.S. has no locally transmitted cases yet, but we do have cases in the United States because of travelers returning from regions where it's a problem right now. In May of 2015, the Pan American Health Organization issued an alert regarding the first confirmed Zika infection in Brazil, and that's where we're hearing most of the news stories is from Brazil. The outbreak in Brazil led to reports of Guillain-Barré syndrome, but also pregnant women giving birth to babies with birth defects, specifically microcephaly, which is the small head. So knowledge continues to grow about the link between Zika and microcephaly. I don't believe there's any hard evidence yet, but there seems to be a strong correlation between the two, and so that's what has led the World Health Organization to issue some alerts, as well as the CDC issuing travel alerts. So especially, I guess for anyone really traveling to the region, but especially for pregnant women. So anyone who's pregnant and was wanting to travel to some of those areas, I would advise them to visit the Centers for Disease Control website, where they have some maps that are similar to this one, where you can see where they're advising to avoid going to. So. And then just a couple of things I want to mention about Bay County Mosquito Control's response. I guess just to reiterate that our primary goal at Mosquito Control is to protect public health from diseases that are borne by mosquitoes, and that has been our goal for many years. And that's really, in fact, why Mosquito Control started in the Saginaw Valley area, was due to an outbreak in 1975 of St. Louis encephalitis in Michigan, and that got the ball rolling. In 77, Saginaw Bay started, and then, the rest is history. But so during this season, we'll continue a ramped up mosquito disease surveillance effort, which we do every year. Again, we typically look for the St. Louis encephalitis, Eastern equine, and West Nile virus, and we send in the mosquito vectors of those viruses to Michigan State University, where they're tested. Again, even though we don't have any locally transmitted cases of Zika here, we do have a lot of other viruses that we're concerned with. There's currently no test available for Zika, at least in Michigan. We just recently talked to our MSU lab fellow who handles that. I suppose they will be watching that, and we will be watching their response as well. If Zika comes to Michigan and there are locally transmitted cases and it's becoming a problem, I'm sure that will change, and so we'll be keeping abreast of that situation. Although we don't have the particular Aedes vectors that are associated with Zika, we do have other Aedes species. And some of the Aedes species we have are also dainty biters, and they're container breeders, just like these. So just something for us to be watching out for. We do plan to implement buying a couple new traps that are designed especially to look for these couple species of mosquitoes, so we'll be incorporating them into the mix of traps that we typically do. And our public education will just continue by reminding people to dump containers. The vectors of Zika are container breeders, and so it will just be that effort again to remind people to dump containers in their backyard where they're standing in water, and keep bird baths rinsed out and that sort of thing. Again, there's no vaccine to prevent Zika, so our recommendation will just be remember to wear a repellent when you're outside, following label directions for that very carefully. And then just lastly, again, the Centers for Disease Control and World Health Organization both have some really good websites. So we'll put those links on our webpage, but you can get the best answers there. A lot of links, like on the CDC website, that says question and answers about Zika. So real specific questions can be answered there. And again, we don't feel that there's any reason for alarm with Zika right now, but we are taking it seriously. So,
Very good.
thank you.
Commissioner Herrick.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Excuse me. I guess for everybody that gets to watch at home, everybody has the same question: where has this been forever? Where did it come from? How come it hasn't been? Nobody's heard about. People who travel on cruises and whatever, go down to South America, maybe Costa Rica, and all of a sudden this year, boom, we have the Zika virus.
Yeah, the Zika virus is not new to the world. I think it started first found in Uganda in 1947, so it's been around for a lot of years. It didn't come to the Western Hemisphere until 2015, and I heard, and this is through the radio, through NPR, that they're linking it to some French Polynesian athletes who came over to train for the Olympics in Brazil. And so they're thinking that's how it came, because the strain in French Polynesia is the same strain as what's here, or what's in Brazil. So I think, as in a lot of cases, like we've never heard of West Nile virus, even though, again, that was a virus that had been around, or they first discovered in the 30s, I believe. And it first came to Michigan in 2001. But with travel and, the world being smaller, as they say, with how quickly people travel to these countries and bring things like this back, I think it's just something that we need to stay on top of and keep monitoring.
Thank you.
You did mention West Nile. Have we had reports of West Nile in our immediate area over the past couple of summers?
Oh, yes. Since West Nile came in 2001, we have found it every year since 2001. Not human cases, but finding it in mosquito pools that we test. And we're still relying on residents to report dead birds. So if we get dead crows or blue jays in good enough condition, we can swab
Okay.
and test them. And we pick it up every year. Not in huge numbers.
Okay.
But 2002 and 2012 were big years for Michigan.
Okay. Commissioner Begic.
Yeah, I think, in Africa, a lot of people have been exposed to it, so they have the antibodies to it, so there's that herd effect that develops. But over here, it's neat, nobody's been exposed to it, so it spreads rapidly that way.
Right.
The vaccine's a year or two down the road, they said too.
And if they have health questions, Joel's in the back. I'm not sure, Joel, if we're going to be in a position to answer questions that people might have that may think that somehow they've been exposed.
Yes, the State Department of Health and Human Services just came out with guidelines today, especially for pregnant women that may have traveled to the affected areas. If they exhibit the symptoms, which are fever, rash, joint pain, red irritated eyes, 2 weeks of travel, and even if they don't have any symptoms, and they're concerned, they can go to their doctor, they can have a blood test, it will be sent to Lansing. It will take a couple of weeks to do, but only if they've traveled to the affected areas, which are certain parts of Mexico, the Caribbean, South America. Traveling to Texas or Florida doesn't count at this point in time. So at this point in time, we're really looking for those that may be affected for the microcephaly. But by all means, please contact us for health-related questions at the Bay County Health Department. For vector-related or mosquito questions,
Good.
Of course, they should contact mosquito control.
Very good. Thank you, too.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Tom. Anyone else? Actually, I'll probably wait for you. One second, Sheriff.
Sure.
We have a young lady coming up, Jody. Smiling face.
Hello. I'm Jody Schultz, and I'm an extension educator housed here in Bay County with Michigan State University Extension. I just want to take a brief moment to introduce to you our new district coordinator. This is Diane Smith, and we are very happy to have her. She succeeds Deanna East, who took a new position within our organization.
She didn't last long, did she?
Well, she moved on to be associate state leader for our Health and Nutrition
Wonderful.
Institute. So that's pretty exciting new position for her. Just as Deanna served Bay, Midland, Saginaw, Genesee, and Shiawassee counties, Diane will be serving those areas as well. So just want to give her a moment to introduce herself to you and welcome her.
Welcome.
Take a second of your time. So I've been with Extension for 25 years. I started out in volunteer management. Was there for about 11 years. I was with the 4-H program. And then from there I went on to economic development and with Miami County. So I was doing that for about 10 years. And then after that to business counseling for people with food product and the Industry Product Center. So I come with a business mind of what are we doing with your tax dollars to be able to put on programs that benefit the citizens of the county. So that's the mind frame that I have. And so that's the mind frame I'll be working with you on. And I look forward to meeting each of you individually to talk more about what your interests are for our programming and see if we can meet those needs.
Very good. Well, we welcome you. Very, very, very glad to see you.
Welcome.
Anyone else before the sheriff? Come on up.
Everybody wants to come on.
My name is Mark McFarland. I'm a Bay County resident and licensed private investigator. I ran for governor in 2014 as a U.S. taxpayers nominee. I I'm currently a Democratic candidate for Bay County Executive for 2016, and am filed and seeking the Democratic nomination for governor in 2018. That being said, I am confident that the majority will finally get it right as far as a change in the county executive office. I stand before this board today and the citizens you represent to address the political reality of the tenure of the current Bay County executive. Thomas Hickner, the current executive, has held office for 6 terms, nearly 24 years. He entered the office in 1992 under suspicious circumstances when Kim Higgs, the county executive at the time, filed for re-election, then suddenly withdrew after the final deadline, leaving only one candidate to win by default, Mr. Hickner. I submit that the central core of the Bay County Democratic Party have been reckless in their complicity to sustain this regime. Constitutionally, there is no limit to terms that a county official can serve, yet is this good policy? It is a question of character. We shall not have dictators or kings of America. Like many leaders, George Washington was a powerful man, a great man, a popular man. Ultimately, though, he knew how to do something that so many leaders do not. He knew to relinquish power. He did so twice, both after his leadership with the Continental Army and after his second presidential term. The latter setting a respected standard that remained unbroken until after year. Both times he accomplished much, but he felt humbled and worn by his experiences on both occasions. It was time to abandon power. Right now, the Michigan State Legislature has paved the way for all county boards with an elected county executive to decide before April 1st, 2016, to change the election of their county executive to the gubernatorial election cycle opposed to the current presidential cycle. If passed by this board, this current election for Bay County executive in 2016 would be only a 2-year term until 2018, when it would revert back to a regular 4-year term in a gubernatorial election. I am requesting that this board act upon this legislation and approve this change at your next meeting in March. My reasoning is this: the change to a 2-year term would limit the duration of time that Mr. Hickner would have if he were to win a 7th term. This board has a duty to review this legislation and act accordingly in the interest of the people. Mr. Hickner's exorbitant salary of $105,000 and his lack of political will to fairly provide union protection has been a contention of mine. While his salary has always increased, county union workers have experienced slow growth in salaries. It has been no accident that this administration has prevented union workers in the pursuit for rightful wages and a sustainable standard of living. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Good afternoon. My name is Jeff Martin. I'm a private attorney here in Bay City, Michigan. I'm a owner of Martin Foley Law Firm here in Bay City, Michigan. I subcontract with Schistler Law to provide all of the indigent representation of individuals that are charged with misdemeanors here in Bay County. We've had this contract with Bay County since 2007. It's my understanding there's a resolution that is being proposed today, resolution number 2016-56. In essence, what that is dealing with is that the Michigan Indigent Defense Commission has proposed standards in which to administer indigent defense for people who cannot afford attorneys throughout the state of Michigan. One of my concerns about this resolution, there's several. One of them is that the standards have not yet been adopted. They're still in submitted a comment to the Michigan State Supreme Court for that information. One of the biggest issues that, as I understand it, is that a contract that Schistler Law has with the county does not address the administration of how that defense is being provided to individuals who fall within that contract. One of the issues is that the way the defense, the representation of defense is not following the proposed standards. I spoke with Scott Schistler, who is the owner and is the operator dealing with indigent counsel. He handles half of the indigent work here in Bay County, and he subcontracts with me to handle the other half. We have agreed, and we made it known, that we will follow whatever standards are adopted by the MIDC. We're willing to do that. We're willing to provide that defense at the remaining contract price as it is currently administered. The proposal here is going to increase your costs at a minimum of $50,000 a year, just at the initial stage. And quite honestly, there are many issues that are not being addressed and are not being resolved at this point. Quite honestly, the resolution here is premature. I think if we take the time to make sure, one, that the MDIC standards actually get adopted, and two, what is the county going to do to make sure that they fulfill those standards? Quite honestly, 2 attorneys is not going to be enough. If you hire 2, that's all that's going to do is replace the 2 attorneys that are handling the misdemeanor contract at this point. You still are subcontracting now with a variety of different private attorneys through contract for work that the public defender's office can't handle. One of the things and one of the standards that the MIDC is going to handle is how many cases can an attorney handle. And they have too many indigent defendants coming through Bay County that 4 attorneys are going to be, just cannot possibly handle it. So this is just the beginning stages of trying to comply with what we think is going to be the standards, but we don't know. In this comment stage, there's many resolutions that can happen. We are in agreement, both myself and Mr. Schisler, to follow whatever the standards are. And that includes whatever administration that the county needs to put in place to make sure that Mr. Schisler and myself are following whatever these standards become. I can assure you that I have spoken with all of the district court judges, and I do not believe that they have any complaints as to the type of work and the type of representation that we are providing to the community for these types of issues. There are many conflict of issues that are being in the process of making a determination of how and getting a response on what that is, but we don't even have those yet. And so proposing and to move forward to send out notices that you have these opening positions, I think is way premature. And one of the things that we would like, Mr. Schisler and myself, is to be able to match that and cooperate with whatever your standards are going to be, and hold ourselves to the administration that the county believes that needs to be handled, and be able to do it at a much cheaper rate. And the reason we can do that is because we have other things that are fulfilling our opportunity as well, and so, our business as well. So we can absorb those costs a lot better than what the county can through the way that we conduct our business. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else before the sheriff? Buddy, you're up.
The last meeting, several of the commissioners inquired about the body armor we got from the Area Foundation.
Yep.
I have Under Sheriff Troy Cunningham and Dave Mataki here to demonstrate it for you. You'll allow him to come up and turn the board.
Sure. Can you shoot a gun in here? Brave man.
Wow. We want it front and back.
Yeah, what those are is through the Bay Foundation and through the JAG grant through Bayonet, we got enough to equip every one of the deputies with those. Outside their regular armor that they wear all the time that goes underneath their shirt, these are rifle plates that will stop. Some are doing some of the armor piercing rounds, 270s, 308s, 306, some of the higher rifles. But there's actually one of those plates front and back. And then they have the anti-spalling, so if they do take a round, it doesn't go in your necks. But
Pretty heavy.
yeah, well, these are the lightest ones going right now. These are, most of them are running around 11, 12 pounds. These are at 6.6 pounds, and they're the newest ones that are out there. Prices-
Would you like to lift it?
Sure.
It's two hands. That's right.
But those will be in just for if there's active shooters or if they end up going to a call where they have somebody that's outside of the rifle or gun or in the woods or something. Those be carried so they can throw them on real quick and deploy them.
So you don't wear them all the time then?
No, they won't be worn all the time.
No, the normal ones that you guys wear, and they'll take a pistol round. that
Yeah,
kind of
most
thing.
just, depending on the levels on them. And we get there's little trauma plates in the front of them that'll stop a little bit higher calibers, but that'll stop. Hopefully everything's come up against right now.
Can you take a
Big
picture?
number.
Can you take a picture for the? Sorry. Thank you. Thank you.
Good.
Any questions? Commissioner Herrick?
Yeah, I really like this because I was fortunate enough to be on the grant committee from the community foundation when this was presented. And I know it was through the diligence of the sheriff's department, and basically caring for their own, that it was brought to us, and it was a great idea. There's a lot of things that go on in the community that people don't think about that, the community foundation provides money for, and this is one of them. I mean, what better than to protect the guys that are protecting us, and I think this is a great idea. You should run with this for a while.
I was just going to say, great for weight loss.
Yeah, be a little cardio workout.
Man.
Might be tough chasing a felon.
Good thing you get stretched.
Good thing he's young, this guy.
I'll pass.
So that's gonna go on every card, at least one.
Yeah, what they're doing, and then through the military, we actually got some of the armor helmets. And so our goal is we're gonna have these ready to deploy. Every deputy will take them out every day on patrol, have them in the trunk with the vest, and then we'll have a helmet. And we're looking to do like a quick clot and the tourniquet stuff just for them or if they're in school or somewhere where there's major triage.
Very good, thank you. Nice show and tell, Sheriff. Anyone else wish to address the board? With that, let's move into petitions and communications. And first, under A, we have a presentation of recognition to Bruce Douglas. So, Mr. Begic, if you would come up, and Bruce, if you'd come up here, that'd be wonderful. And I'll have you read the resolution, please. We'll have you stand right over here so we can get a pretty picture. So Cindy, if you would, please.
Resolution 2016-25 by the Bay County Board of Commissioners, whereas Bruce J. Douglas, a Vietnam veteran, retired from the Soldiers Relief Commission on January 29, 2016, after many years of service, and the Bay County Board of Commissioners and Bay County Executive wish to recognize that service as well as his exemplary role of volunteer in Bay County. Whereas volunteers are critical to the vital and productivity of the community's future, and volunteering one's time, talent, and resources has been a significant part of our American heritage. Whereas Bruce J. Douglas has committed his life to volunteering in our community, and we wish to highlight those efforts. And whereas Bruce J. Douglas has served as a commissioner on the Soldiers and Sailors Relief Commission, as a trustee on the Michigan Veterans Trust Fund's senior vice commander of the Polish Legion of American Veterans, board member of the Bay County Vietnam Veterans of America, Elda Lutz VA Medical Center volunteer committee member, and currently serves on the Bay County Veterans Monument Committee, is a life member of AMVETS, VFW, Marine Corps League, and a member of the American Legion and Bay County Veterans Councils. And whereas, in addition to his volunteer efforts on behalf of veterans, Bruce J. Douglas served on the board of directors for the Amateur Speed Skating Union, the Campfire Girls of America, and the Big Brothers Big Sisters of America. He's been a coach for the Bay County Speed Skating Club, Bangor Township Recreation T-Ball, C-Ball, 4-pitch, and NYCA Youth Basketball. And whereas, additionally, Bruce J. Douglas served as a timer for the YMCA and Elks swim teams, and as a Scoutmaster for Boy Scouts of America, and as president of the Visitation School Board. And whereas through his efforts, the Bay County Veterans Transportation Program was formed, providing transportation to eligible veterans for medical appointments and hospital visits, and for multiple years, all scheduling and coordination of drivers was handled by Bruce J. Douglas. And whereas in 2005, Bruce J. Douglas was named Bay County Veteran of the Year. And whereas, because of his efforts, in 2015, 24 families received gift baskets filled with items gathered by a team of volunteers led by Bruce J. Douglas. Therefore, be it resolved that the Bay County Board of Commissioners and the Bay County Executive express their heartfelt appreciation to Bruce J. Douglas and recognize his volunteer contributions to Bay County and offer their best wishes for a long, healthy, and fulfilling retirement. Signed, Ernie Krieger, Chair and Board.
Thank you. What's your pleasure, guys?
Motion approved. Or
Discussion. They forgot to put on there how many vehicles you outlived. Driving back and forth. You're all set, Vaughn. Take it
Okay.
away.
Well, he's been pretty busy, as you can see, so I'm sure his wife will be glad to see him at home. And I've known him for about 25 years now, and he's been very active and got their band program going and numerous things. So we thank him very much for all his service, and hope he stays healthy and gets to enjoy his retirement.
Very good.
There is a reception afterwards at the American Legion, 6th and Adams, if you want to come celebrate with Bruce, and I hear there's a cake there too.
Very good. All right. The guy was a workhorse, right? Under B, Brandon Kraus, Register of Deeds, likes to give us an update on the office. Afternoon.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Board of Commissioners, for allowing me this time to come and present to you. Although how you follow up with that, that's pretty impressive. So I think I'm going to bore you with what I have. But Bruce, thank you for all your service and all your dedication to the economy. It's fantastic. Enjoy your retirement. Just want to give you some updates on the office. E-filing from December 3rd to 2014 to December 3rd, 2015. We recorded a total number of documents of 18,487. Of those documents, 1,783 were recorded through e-filing, which means that we recorded e-filing by 9.6% on the year. So for our first year, I think that's really good. Total revenue from that was $53,655.05. Our goal for 2016 is to e-record 20% of our documents. Right now, I'm working with Michelle Wilson from Simplifile, and we're getting her a vendor list of everybody that brings documents to us, still paper, and we're going to make some contacts with them, try to get them signed up, and try to get more people active in this. 5-year, long-term, we're hoping to get maybe 40-50% e-recording, so that's our goal. Software, our RFP, the request for proposal has been written by Francis Moore Purchasing. It will be completed and released with all the changes by the IT, Finance, and Corporation Council, hopefully by February 17th. The bids will be open Friday, March 4th, and we hope to have the new software and the scanned images from US Image implemented by April 8th at the latest. That's what we're hoping for. The US Imaging, they completed the scanning project in October of 2015. We are currently holding payment of $19,952.50 to US Imaging until we get our new software. The reason that is if we upload our images to our software now, we have to pay to convert them and upload them now. And then if we get a new software, I have to pay to convert and upload to the new software. So we'd be getting it twice. So I just decided to wait and work with US Imaging so we can, there's a one-time payment on that. And then to top it off, we have a new TV monitor that we've installed. And I want you guys to stop down and check it out anyway, or if you can. And what it is, we purchase a new TV monitor, we display it behind our counter, and it displays the events and the assets that Bay County has to offer to its constituents. The total cost of all the hardware was around $400. That includes the cost of the TV. We implemented with this a new software called Rise Vision, and it streamlines the current events on the TV. The software is free, but we opted to pay $120 per year to upgrade that so we have a storage, and then we can actually get more information off the internet to put on there, and that's annual, but that's open to everybody in the county. So if there's other departments in the county that want to implement this and get TVs for their office, they have access to our software, it would be free for them. So $120 a year is pretty cheap advertising. Currently, we're promoting the wellness program, the golf course, civic arena, division on aging, animal control, local festivities like the fireworks and tall ships, and of course, we're using it to keep our customers aware of what's going on in the Register of Deeds office. If there's any other departments that want to put some things on our TV, just contact me, and we'll make sure that we get anything put on there. If you have something with the Board of Commissioners you guys want to put on there, just get a hold of us, and we'll make sure it gets put on there, and everybody in the county that comes to business in our office will be able to be updated on what you're doing. It's been a great informational tool already for the public as a way at the counter for us to make sure their documents meet recording requirements. They're an audience. They have nothing to do to stand there and watch us. Rather than watching us, they can watch that monitor and see what's going on in the county. So it's been very valuable. We've gotten a lot of compliments on it already, so we're quite proud of that. Other than that, that's pretty much it, Mr. Chairman.
Very good.
Any questions?
Motion to receive would be in order. Discussions. Nice job. All those in favor, signal by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. We'll move into C, Administrative Service Director. There's an appointment of Jonathan Van Tall for the Soldiers Relief Commission. I think it was Kim. Any discussion? With none, all those in favor signal by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. We'll move into reports and resolutions of the committee. We've got Ways and Means with Commissioner Coonan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Resolution 2016-26 is financial support for the proposed tennis courts. I move this resolution.
Discussion. With none, all those in favor signal by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Resolution 2016-27 of the acceptance of the Bay Area Community Foundation grant funding for the Sheriff's Department. I move this resolution.
Support.
Discussion. With none, all those in favor signal by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Resolution 2016-28, renewal of the bayonet grant agreement through the prosecutor's office. I move this resolution. Support.
Discussion. With none, all those in favor signal by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Resolution 2016-29, the rescission of Resolution 2010-262, the Road Commissioner's Health Insurance through the Road Commission. I move this resolution.
Support.
Discussion. Commissioner Begic.
Since we talked about this last, I've had some chances to talk to the Michigan Association of Counties and Saginaw County. What Saginaw County has done, and our attorney is here today, because he talked about some of the other options that we had besides, giving the insurance. Saginaw County has their commissioners sign a document stating that they will not work more than 29 hours, so they're considered part-time. Tuscola County has done it too. It is questionable. The MAC says it's not clear in the Affordable Care Act what's full-time and what's part-time. I think we could resolve it differently. We voted to do it for the county commissioners already, so I probably will vote for this resolution, but I think we need to keep our options open and look down the road if they clarify part-time, full-time, being on call, what that means, and if we have other options, maybe we can change it in the future. Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else? With that being said, all those in favor signal by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Resolution 2016-30, the architectural services for the roofing system for the health department and the court facilities through buildings and grounds. I move this resolution.
Support.
Discussion. With none, all those in favor signal by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Resolution 2016-31, farmers market canopy repair through buildings and grounds. I move this resolution.
Support.
Discussions. With none, all those in favor signal by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Resolution 2016-32, senior dining centers agreements through the Division on Aging. I move this resolution.
Support.
Discussion. With none, all those in favor signal by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Resolution 2016-33, Region 7 Area Agency Waiver Contract through the Division on Aging. I move this resolution.
Support.
Discussion. With none, all those in favor signal by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Resolution 2016-34, control material bids through mosquito control. I move this resolution.
Support.
Discussion. With none, all those in favor signal by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Resolution 2016-35, light trap contracts through the mosquito control. I move this resolution.
Support.
Discussions. I do have a question, Tom. And I saw there was an article written in the Midland Journal or whatever it's called on how they're saving some money on the chemicals that are used in mosquito spray, eliminating it down from 5 bags down to 4. It's a substantial savings for the amount of area that they're covering. They're kind of cutting back on the volume. Is that something that we saw or are you aware of?
The BTI, is what you're speaking of?
Yeah.
Yeah. But we were able to lower some of the rate of the. We went down to 3 pounds. Mary did some many replication trials, and we were at 5 pounds, and to save money because as you know our budget was really tight.
Correct.
28 years, as you guys know. But we were able to do it at 3 pounds an acre compared to 5, as long as that aircraft is very proficient, which they are. So that is one of the reasons we did that. We do it at 3 instead of 5. In the perfect world, we would probably go back to 4 or 5 pounds, because that it would be a little bit more insurance. But I think we had 94.5% control over 45,000 acres with the 3 pounds.
Excellent.
Monitoring of.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. All right, Commissioner Coonan?
We all voted on that?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Resolution 2016-36, scrap tire disposal, project agreement with mosquito control. I move this resolution.
Support.
Discussion? With none, all those in favor signal by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Resolution 2016-37, this is a letter of understanding with the Registered Nurses Organization through the Personnel Department. I move this resolution.
Support.
Discussion? With none, all those in favor signal by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Resolution 2016-38, this is an 85-15 split for employee health care for 2016 through personnel. I move this resolution.
Support.
Discussion? Commissioner Tilley.
After the comments were made here today, I just want to remind the public that the state decided they would intervene and tell us how we could fund health care through the county and through schools, through state municipal entities back in 2012. And one of those was the mandate that the employee pay 20% of his health care. And we, looking out for our employees, have an option to keep that at 15, and as a county board, we're helping out our employees by taking on that extra 5% that the employee would have to otherwise undertake by state law. We can locally make a decision to help our employees out. So with that, very good.
Very good. Anyone else? That being said, all those in favor signal by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Resolution 2016-39, this is the reclassification for the recreation coordinator through personnel. I move this resolution.
Support.
Discussion? With none, all those in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Resolution 2016-40, golf course fee schedule through recreation and facilities. I move this resolution.
Support.
Discussions? With none, all those in favor signal by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Resolution 2016-41, this is the purchase of a ball soccer equipment through recreation and facilities. I move this resolution.
Support.
All those in favor, well, discussions, any discussions? With none, all those in favor signal by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Resolution 2016-42, this is the amendment number 1, the comprehensive planning, budgeting, and contracting agreement through the health department. I move this resolution.
Support.
Discussion. With none, all those in favor signal by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Resolution 2016-43, payables through the general, bayonet, and Center Ridge Arms. I move this resolution.
Support.
Discussion. With none, all those in favor signal by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Resolution 2016-44, budget adjustments through various budget adjustments to the Finance Department. I move this resolution.
Support.
Discussion. With none, all those in favor signal by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Resolution 2016-45, request for proposal for waste removal services through the Finance Department. I move this resolution.
Support.
Discussion. With none, all those in favor signal by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Resolution 2016-46, the renewal of the bayonet grant agreement through the Sheriff's Department. I move this resolution.
Support.
Discussions. With none, all those in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Resolution 2016-47, I believe we're referring this
That's
back to
correct.
administration.
We'll have a special meeting,
Oh, refer it back to a special meeting?
yep, after Human Services next week.
Okay, sounds good.
Support.
Yep. Yep. Discussions. With none, all those in favor signal by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Resolution 2016-48, this is an amendment to the agreement with the Department of Health and Human Services regarding an eligibility specialist. I move this resolution.
Support.
Discussion. With none, all those in favor signal by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Resolution 2016-49, are we going to do the new one?
Yes,
Did you want me to read that?
please.
This is the Bay County Board of Commissioners, that Corporation Council is to proceed according to the recommendation given in the Ways and Means Committee closed session 2216 relative to the Gillison and Walraven cases and the nickel workers' compensation case. I move this resolution.
Support.
Discussion. With none, all those in favor signal by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
I believe, Mr. Chairman, that's all the business that we have through Ways and Means.
Commissioner Coonan, thank you very much. We'll move into Personnel, Human Services, which brings up Commissioner Lutz.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Today, I'd like to bring Resolution 2016-50, which is the Blue Cross Blue Shield Inmate Services Contract with the Sheriff's Department for 2016-17. I move that resolution.
Support.
Discussion. With none, all those in favor signal by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Next is Resolution 2016-51. It's the fairgrounds use by the Fair Board for years 2016, 2017, and 2018 Recreation and Facilities Division. I move that resolution.
Support.
Discussion. With none, all those in favor signal by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Next is Resolution 2016-52, which is the Alterum Institute and MC EDA agreements through the Health Department. I move that resolution.
Support.
Discussion. With none, all those in favor signal by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Next is Resolution 2016-53, which is the agreements with Doctors Plus through the Health Department. I move that resolution.
Support.
Discussion. With none, all those in favor signal by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Next is the Resolution 2016-54, which is the agreement with Barbara McGregor through the Health Department. I move that resolution.
Support.
Discussion. With none, all those in favor signal by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Next is Resolution 2016-55, which is the vacancies within the Health Department, the Division on Aging, the Sheriff's Department, Marine Division, 911 Central Dispatch, and the Personnel Department. I move that resolution.
Support.
Discussion. With none, all those in favor signal by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. And then, Mr. Lutz?
The last one I have, we were given a updated resolution.
What I'd like to do, if we could, there are a few people in the audience that would like to take an opportunity to talk on this. So before we bring this resolution up, If, I think Judge Kalida.
Mr. Chair, do we need to move and support it for discussion?
I'd like to have discussion go before we do this.
Thank you. Thank you, Chairman Krieger, for allowing me to speak when the motion is before you, as opposed to during public comment. I think it's better for you to get an understanding. First, on behalf of the court system, we acknowledge change is coming when it comes to representation of indigent defense. When Mr. Martin spoke and he said the district judges had no complaints about how they were operating, that's very true. We have never received any complaints about how they were operating. So I want to make that clear, because I don't know if that's been represented to you adequately or not. But I do know that change is coming. At every judicial conference I have attended for the last year, they have talked about the new Michigan Indigent Defense Commission and what they want to propose in terms of changes for Michigan. There is so much involved in this, you can't even imagine. I mean, almost weekly, I now as chief judge am inundated with new information that's coming out, not only about the proposals that they want to make and mandate for indigent defense across the state, but how we're supposed to roll it out, so to speak. And I have to tell you that some representations I think have been made that we've been involved in the process at the judiciary, or even actually, I can't speak for the other departments, other than I know Kurt Asbury has not been approached about it, and the judges have not been approached about it, except for one meeting that occurred over a year ago. So it is a little disappointing that I'm coming to you today asking you to involve us in the process that I, as one judge, am going to deal with on a daily basis. Normally, I think the way the commission operates, having sat on it for nearly 8 years myself, we try to involve the stakeholders in something as critical as this, but generally speaking, I think you all try to involve the stakeholders when you're making massive changes. So, having said that, that's the past. I'm here to ask you today to keep us involved, because how you roll this out is going to directly affect how we do business over there at the courthouse. Now, I know none of you are lawyers, and if you were, you'd understand where I'm coming from for this. As a judge, I have to not only be sure that the defendant's rights are covered, but I have to be sure that victims' rights are covered, and that comes out of the prosecutor's office. There is some concern with conflict of interest issues that we've raised, that until they're dealt with and we understand what's going to happen with that and who's going to monetarily be responsible for what falls out of that, there could be some appeal issues that Mr. Asbury, I'm sure at some point in the future, will be talking with you about. So, at this point, we know there's going to be an impact. We know there's going to be change, and I've done this long enough now to know that change is a part of life. So, as a court, we operate under our court rules. We apply the law and statutes, but we operate under our court rules and our administrative orders. Those set forth how we operate with indigent defense. You need to involve us. So that's what I'm asking for, so that I, as chief judge, can make sure that our administrative orders are in compliance and in accordance with what MIDC is going to set forth. And I will tell you right now, they are just proposals. They're open for comment. Then they're going to go to somebody else and they're going to be open for comment. And finally, they're going to go to the Supreme Court and they're going to be open for comment. You all know how legislation works. What's proposed today is not what it looks like at the end. It's the same thing with these. So I'm asking that you keep us involved and you allow us the opportunity to give input on this, because it's going to be critical. It really is. And if you want a good system here in Bay County, you're going to have to do that. Now I would like to introduce the regional consultant for the Michigan Indigent Defense Commission, Ms. Barb Konishevsky. She has some comments she would like to make, Mr. Chairman.
Very good.
Again, thank you very much.
Thank you. Judge?
Thank
you. I'm Barbara Tomaszewski. I'm an attorney in Saginaw, and as of January, I am the regional consultant for this area for the Michigan Indigent Defense Commission.
Welcome.
Thank you. I cover basically the whole middle of the state of Michigan, so I'm covering a pretty wide range. And my task is to consult with the courts, defense bar, and any other stakeholders in the county, because you folks are going to be very involved in what happens with the Michigan Indigent Defense Commission and the adoption of the standards. The standards were attached to the original resolution that is not going to be voted on today, but proposed standards. Just a minor correction that with what Judge Clyde said, they actually are in front of the Supreme Court right now. They're up for comment. You can go to the Supreme Court website and make a comment if you choose to. We expect the Michigan Supreme Court to make some version of these mandatory around the beginning of May. Don't expect a ton of changes, but there may be some changes. The way they are set up now has been adopted by the Commission. It marches along with the statute pretty closely. Here's the principle. It's a local control statute. Your budget that you spent in the years 2010, 2011, and 2012, averaged out on an annual basis, make up what's called the local share. Anything that it costs your county to comply with the standards that exceeds the local share, you can apply for a grant from the Michigan Indigent Defense Commission to pay for that increase in cost. That's called a compliance plan. That compliance plan has to be filed with the state 180 days after the adoption of the standards. So part of what I'm doing is helping the counties to get their plan ready to submit so that they can get this money, which of course the legislature hasn't quite appropriated yet, but they've appropriated everything leading up to it so far, so we're kind of hopeful that they're going to keep on the same path. The statute requires that they need to make that appropriation, and essentially, if they don't appropriate the money, you don't have to comply with the standards. We hope you will, but you don't have to if it's not paid for. So hopefully there will be money attached that's going to be allowing you, without additional expenditure by the county, to bring these standards into action. I was able to attend a meeting last week with the folks from the Defender Office, with Ms. Amber Davis-Johnson, to try to address some concerns in that original proposal. There are some concerns about administrative issues that need to be addressed by a state bar ethics opinion. I don't think it's anywhere close to a final form yet. And the other thing that I wanted to stress to you is that there will be a lot more to a compliance plan than what was in that original resolution. It doesn't, for example, address one of the very big changes in the standards, which is that there would be appearance of counsel on behalf of every defendant at the first appearance in court. So in other words, all arraignments will require representation. So that's going to be a significant change in practice. There are other changes that are also very important, but that one just is sort of an example of something that's going to be a big change, and it's not addressed at all in this proposal. So essentially what I would urge you to do is to just take a look at the restructuring in light of the standards and to have me help you to comply with the standards and make sure that your restructuring is following along the path that needs to be followed in order to be able to make a successful bid to the commission for the grant money that they have or will have. So I'm happy to work with anybody on this commission, with your appropriate committees. You are going to be the submitting body. It will be the Bay County Commission that submits the proposal, the compliance plan to the Michigan Indigent Defense Commission because you're the funding agent. So ultimately, I'm going to need to be working with the court, with the Defender Office, and with you to make sure that you're in a position to play that to your best advantage and to improve the quality of the indigent defense.
So Barb, Commissioner Tiller, you had a question. Is this something Barb can address or the judge?
Well, what I'm getting here is you sound like you're both talking about opposite sides of the coin. That you're asking, or you're kind of inferring that we move forward with our plan, and the judge is asking that I don't know if you're asking us to defer it or to just continue moving forward and include the judge's conversations going forward.
Okay, let me say from my point of view, it's a local control statute, and I don't speak for the commission. I'm a consultant to the commission. I have some concerns about the original plan as far as the structure of it and whether or not it's going to permit the attorneys in those two offices to truly resolve potential conflicts of interest, whether some boundaries are being crossed in terms of administration. It is essential to get that ethics opinion so that your boundaries are very clear in order to avoid really muddying the waters here in terms of going forward. I think the commission, and I don't speak for the commission, but my observation is that in general, they would look favorably upon bringing things back in-house. And I think in the long run, that's probably going to be something that they would favor.
And Barbara,
whether it's ready to go right now, I think that's one reason why this was taken off the table now, because these other issues have to be dealt with. I guess I'm not entirely sure why this piece of it is going forward when the rest of it isn't really ready to go, but that may be something that...
go ahead, Don.
That's still part of my question, is that, are we looking to kick this another month down the road? No, we're going to move forward. With the ethics questions being at hand.
Correct.
I know there's another issue where one of the attorneys' wives is the secretary to the prosecutor. And that's not a conflict of interest in the case that we're looking for with the person that's involved that we're discussing right now. I don't know why this one would be a conflict.
Okay, I'm not aware of that issue about the prosecutor's office. This is the first I've heard of that one. I can tell you that pursuant to the discussion that we had in the meeting last week, there are some questions about what information that administrative person will have access to. There are also some questions about the reporting process, because it's not okay for an attorney's work to be supervised by a non-attorney. Bottom line, you can't really do that in the state bar.
I wouldn't be asking for that, but at the same time, we should very good employees over there that do a lot of quality work, and I don't want to see our employees, because we harmed in a way that their job harmed in some way, shape, or form, because there is some conflict of interest when the employee has a really good track record. And
I'll tell you, Mr. Tilley, I didn't even talk about personnel.
no, you did, but it was brought up in this other conversation. So, and I know some other conversations have been going on that you haven't been involved in. So, well, I'm concerned that, and that's why I want, if there's going to be a discussion about somebody having a conflict of interest in both houses, okay, well then there's already a conflict of interest in both houses because there's an attorney whose wife is the secretary in the prosecutor's office that would also present a
That's not necessarily where the conflict arises, and Barb, you jump in.
Sure.
The conflict arises in that you have to have two completely separate offices, just as if it was Don Clyde PC and Don Tilley PC. You have to have completely separate offices. A lot of times, we have defendants that are co-defendants. You can't have in the same office where you have both attorneys that have access to all that information out of the same office. See, right now, if there's a conflict, then that gets referred out. So, I mean, as much as they can, they keep it in-house, but it just doesn't always fly that way. But the conflict comes in, you have to have a conflict wall. It has to go from bottom to top. And if you build your personnel so that you have one person supervising both offices, you don't have that conflict wall anymore. You have that one person that has access to information from both offices. That's what I think part of the ethics opinion is. Actually, one was done way back when we had the two offices, and it was determined you had to have that conflict wall there.
The second conflict discussion that went on in that meeting had to do with what the role of corporate counsel would be in relation to the defender offices and potential conflicts between civil liability for the county and the criminal defense aspect of it. So there was some discussion about restructuring the administrative tree to address some of that. So those issues are all out there, and I know that it is the intention to work on those, and I think that's good. I want to be clear that I'm trying to be supportive of the defense bar. That's part of my role, is to be supportive of the defense bar and their concerns about whether or not they're going to be put into a conflict of interest position in either of those regards, either with the corporate counsel's involvement or with the administration of the two offices. And I want to make sure that those are thoroughly addressed. I'm just not entirely clear about the substitute resolution and the posting of the jobs. I want to make sure that you folks understand that this addition of these 2 attorneys is not going to be adequate to make that compliant. Okay? Whether or not it goes through is a whole different thing, but there will definitely be more required than this. And I don't want you to take action imagining that this, because I know there was a lot of discussion in the original memorandum about the MIDC and the standards and compliance. This actually doesn't come close to compliance. There's going to be required considerable more effort and probably personnel and certainly funds in order to make that compliance plan. So I just want to make sure that you don't have any confusion about what this is. This is not the compliance plan. For one thing, we don't have standards adopted yet, so you can't really comply with them because we don't really have them in place. But this is going to require a lot of additional restructuring after this, even if you proceed with this as it stands right now.
Okay, go ahead, Don.
Ask Shauna to maybe give us some insight on this.
Yeah, let me do
Part of
this.
that conversation on the other side.
We'll come to Sean in 1 second. I know
Okay.
Commissioner Coonan had a question.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I heard that there are going to be some additional standards. So with those...
You mean after these initial ones?
Right, so with those additional standards, regardless if we had what we had 8 years ago, 2 separate offices and did it in-house, or outsourced it, which we do right now, neither one is going to be able to adequately represent those folks with these additional standards, correct?
Okay, I want to make sure that I understand your question correctly. Are you talking about this set of standards that was attached to the original proposal, or are you talking about the ones that are going to follow?
The ones that are going to follow.
Yeah.
Because you mentioned the ones that are going to follow, that 2 people that are proposed here to hire aren't going to be able to handle.
No, that's because of the current set of standards, not the additional ones.
All right, well, whatever.
The current set of standards that are up for comment right now require the representation at first court appearance. And there's no way that this present staffing situation could cover that.
And present staffing, the one that we're proposing, or the
Right.
one that exists right now?
No.
Well, how do we know the one that exists right now can provide this?
They can't.
They can't.
Neither of them can.
That was, okay, so if we're gonna have some additional standards we're gonna have to comply with.
Right.
And if we don't get the funding, did you say we don't have to?
That is correct.
All
It's
right.
all attached to the money.
All right, and then, I've been on for a while, so I remember about 8 years ago when we did go from having it in-house to outsourcing it. Now, administration is bringing it back to us for some reason. We just didn't sit down here and say, well, let's go back for, we need to probably hear the whole story. I don't know if, and ultimately what we want to see as a taxpayer, as someone who sets policy, is to make sure that those folks who are indigent, who don't have resources, are adequately being represented. Ultimately, whether it's done in-house or done out on the outside. And I'm not sure if that's why we're addressing this issue right at this time, so.
Well, I know that the commission's intention is to improve that, to set some minimum standards and improve the quality of defense. I also believe, based on my experience with the commission and what they've done so far, that they would certainly look with favor on bringing it back in-house. Which is not to say that everybody in the state's going to do that, because all around there are different systems. Some are assigned counsel systems, some are contract systems, some are mixed systems, some are public defender systems, as you have here. Well, actually, you have a mixed system here, but it's mostly public defender. And so there, again, I just go back to it's a local control statute. You folks have to figure out what you think is going to do the best job in Bay County and make a compliance plan that's going to work with that. So I can't say to you, yep, great idea, do this or don't do that. That's not my role. My role is to tell you that these standards have to be met and to make sure that you are clear that those standards are not adopted and will not be met by what you have in front of you so far. You're going to have to do a lot more than that in order to comply with these.
Correct. And my understanding, Barb, is this this restructuring and what Bay County's trying to do is under the guidance of Act 139. It's administration that needs to put this stuff together and work with the courts. We're here to make available the funds that are needed, and we've always been a county that is, as long as the grant money was there, the position was there. The grant money was gone, that position is gone, and that's not going to change with us on the board. That's one thing we're going to stay hand in hand with. And I know Commissioner Lutz had a question, but I'm going to come over to Shauna now for a second so that we can have some more conversation. Thank you.
Sure, just a couple points. As Amber had mentioned last Tuesday, the original resolution was never intended to be a compliance plan. That it's just giving you knowledge of the standards that are being proposed, that are likely to be adopted in May, and then we'll need to address come up with a compliance plan to be submitted at that point. And we absolutely have been wanting to work with the courts, but some of the details that we discussed at the meeting are still up in the air. The reorganization, the structure, is it going to be divisions? Is it going to be 2 departments? Will there be an administrative person supervising clerical staff? Will that not happen? Will it be the 2 department structure that we had before? And those are details that we're all still working out. And the reason we want to move forward is that so that we can have the conversation with the courts about how we are going to implement this process. We also need some assistance in drafting the compliance plan once the standards are approved. I think it would be difficult for us to do that with the current makeup. We do need more assistance. So we're looking for direction from the board. We believe it would best be served by coming in-house. We would have more supervision and control. And yes, I don't think that 2 attorneys may be enough to meet the compliance if all of the things that you've mentioned, the arraignments, et cetera, do come to fruition. So that is something we're evolving and looking at.
Mr. Krieger, my main issue though is that you're talking about hiring the 2 attorneys before you have the offices set up. You haven't, we don't have the ethics opinion on how the offices need to be divided. So what are you going to do, bring the 2 attorneys in and then have them start working in the one office and then divide them later after this is figured out? It just seems premature. It's like you're putting the cart before the horse. And I mean, that's my concern with it. And we, as a court system, we haven't been involved in this. So I would have loved to have brought up some of these concerns earlier, but we weren't involved, so.
Okay. Commissioner Lutz?
Well, when, in the early 2000s, when Judge Kaleda, used to be Commissioner Kaleda, and Kim Coonan and I sat on this board, we had a problem at that time with, our indigent defense. We had different things that we had to work through with the public defender's office because of conflicts of interest. We spent a lot of dollars out of the county because of conflicts of interest.
We didn't come in until 2003.
Early 2000. Okay. So, some of this we've addressed before. And we really need to work with, the current legislation that's out there, and we need to get it right. Because we don't want to have a propriety or a thought of impropriety in what we do as far as our indigent, defense. We want it to be right, because everybody deserves that ability to be defended properly and above the word. As chairman of this committee, I would hope that you and the prosecutor's office and administration would, feel free to give me a call, to help resolve any issues before I bring them before my committee again. I believe at this point that it is kind of premature, what you're saying, that as we don't have anything in place, we don't have the full policy to offer a job to somebody that may be in the future, or may not be,
depending on what this board does. I know it takes time to advertise, and it could take weeks to fill these positions, and I know administration is jumping at the bit to get this out there to draw on those, potential employees out there. But I would hope that we could all work together to come to the best possible position that the county of Bay needs to be in for many years in the future.
Commissioner Tilley.
I know this isn't what the judge wants to hear, but at the same time, we've got to come to some kind of an agreement here. But I'm guessing, and you correct me if I'm wrong, Shauna, is that it's going to take 30 to 60 days to hire an attorney, the 2 attorneys. And within that time frame, the expectation is that there will be a plan put in place to settle those issues in that office so that to avoid conflict. Correct?
We would not, this is authorization to post and fill these positions. This is not something where we expect to have someone in an office.
But if we haven't met the criteria, then you can't hire the attorneys.
Right. We would not hire the attorneys and without resolving these other issues.
Okay.
It's just, we need direction from this board that this is where we're moving. We're bringing the attorneys in-house, or we're going to modify the contract. And without some sort of direction.
I can go with that, but I would also like to ask if that the judge be included in these discussions as we go forward, so that everybody's in the same room talking about the same thing, and we walk out of there with the okay hunky-dory, or both walk out of there grumbling because we didn't get what we wanted, and both parties are probably happy. They got the best deal they probably can get.
May I suggest that Mr. Manico, who's here, also be included, since he's currently running your defender office, and I think he's a pretty critical component to those discussions as well.
I will leave that to administration and our chairman to make that decision, and they can make that choice. I'm not the guy to do that.
Commissioner Coonan.
I think Don said it pretty well. I think we need to get rolling on this, and I guess some changes are going to come. It's probably going to cost some more to represent people if somebody seems to think that we're not able to provide adequate representation. And there will probably still be, even when we had folks, additional attorneys, and we're doing most of it in-house, you still have to outsource some things that are conflict. That's still going to happen. So I would think that if we would proceed, and everybody's told stories that people have had the opportunity to talk, and we haven't gotten together. Maybe this will expedite everybody getting together on the same page and working this out, so.
Very good. Commissioner Herrick.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're welcome.
I just want to make sure I got this, got it straight here. Shauna, so we just want to, basically we want to hire 2 people and not do anything with them for 2 months, just so they got them on board without making any moves.
We really just want the authorization to post the position and eventually fill it. We need direction from the board as to which way we're going. Are we bringing them in-house, or are we going to modify the contract? And by approving the authorization, then yes, of course, we're going to continue to work out all the kinks that were discussed in our meeting, but we need to know which way.
So in the time period between now and May, let's say, all these other issues will hopefully be resolved.
Right. And we do have Judge Clyde, I'm coming, if you don't object, I'll be with Tom at your meeting next week.
I'm sorry?
I'll join Tom at your meeting next week to continue these discussions.
Commissioner Durancheck, I think, had a question too. Thank you.
Yes, just a comment from myself. So you want us to approve administration wants us to approve this motion for proposed standards that haven't been approved yet by the state?
No. The resolution before you is to approve them posting and filling 2 attorneys.
But the premise is that these attorneys are going to be doing the bidding of the MIDC, that we don't know what the bidding is. And Chief Judge Plata has not had adequate input, as I can see it here.
I agree with that.
I think it needs to be set back a little bit, take a better look, get it back to administration, get Chief Judge Plata, and get these people together. That's why I can't support this.
Okay. Go ahead, Shauna.
These would be Act 139 employees. I guess they'd be under Tom's jurisdiction. They're not court employees.
Commissioner Begic.
It's a motion. I make a motion to refer back to administration.
Support.
Discussion. Commissioner Tilly?
I guess, I mean, I'm okay to do that if the time allows it to happen. I'm getting, and I 100% follow everything you guys are saying over there. I mean, I think the cart's been put a little bit in front of the horse. At the same time, I trust the integrity of the parties involved to do the right thing, and we bring the right people in the same room in that time period, because I don't think there's anything that says that this body can't come back and say we're gonna eliminate those two positions if we don't like what's happening in the process going forward. That we can just say, then we're not gonna hire those positions, or I don't care if they posted them or not posted them. We hold the purse.
Correct.
So I think that's, I can, to keep things moving forward versus now kicking a can and then coming back next month and having a discussion. I don't know. It's 51 half one way or the other to me, that both are working. I'm okay to go forward with this. I understand the referral. Well, I guess I'll leave it at that.
I'm going to go back to Barb. She's got a bigger stick than you, Mike.
I just wanted to say that the State Bar ethics opinion might move a little slower than you imagine. I was just asking these fellows if they remembered how long it took for the State Bar ethics opinion the last time that you had the two offices set up. And although neither of these guys was right in on it, they think it was about 4 months. So I just wanted to throw that out there, that if we're waiting for the State Bar ethics opinion, it might not move quite as quickly as you all have in mind at this moment. So just put that out there.
Okay, Commissioner Coonan?
I agree with Commissioner Tilley. If we address this today, it can get all the parties at the table, because obviously coming from the state, whether it's the State Bar Ethics Commission or whoever's behind us, they must not be content or satisfied with the types of representation some people are getting. Is that an accurate
Well, there's
statement?
two bodies we're talking about. And Michigan Indigenous Defense Commission is clearly dedicated to the idea that we need to improve that situation. I mean, it was created essentially off a study that was done that ranked the states in terms of the money spent and the quality of defense, and Michigan came up number 44, which was shocking to everyone, which is why there's a very wide political alliance behind improving indigenous defense. But separate from that, we have these issues of administration that it was discussed in the meeting last week, that we need to submit this to the State Bar in order to make sure that the lines are drawn in a way that does not build in conflict of interest issues and appeal issues for defendants. So that's kind of separate from the Indigenous Defense Commission, and that request for the ethics opinion needs to be made as soon as possible. I don't believe a draft has been circulated to the Defense Office yet to submit, so that needs to move along. And once that goes in, I don't know how long it's going to take to issue the opinion. Maybe it'll be quick, maybe it'll be slow, but I'm not sure that you can actually hire people into a structure until that structure has been cleared by the State Bar, just in order to make sure that you're not building in a lot of problems for appeals.
Well, we can go back to the other form we had. I mean, we changed from in-house to outsourcing, so irregardless of what they do, we can decide if we want to do it back in-house. And then anything that's conflicting, then we can outsource. So we have the ability to do it, irregardless of what they decide, because if we put together a compliant program and they don't fund it, we just say we're not doing it. That doesn't make a lot of sense to me.
No, but I just want to be clear with you, the structure that was proposed here in that initial resolution was not the same as the one that the State Bar had cleared with their ethics opinion earlier. It did change in some administrative ways that were problematic. So if you're gonna re-adopt the old structure, you're in the clear, because the state bar's already said that one's good. It's the new structure that might raise some questions.
Okay. Commissioner Begic.
Barb also mentioned that it might be May or it might be later before the Supreme Court rules, and I think you mentioned 180 days after that for you to come, that's 6 months. And we were talking like the end of the year before we'd have to do a decision. So I think we got time to refer back to administration.
Shauna?
It's the pleasure of the board. I've taken direction that we would like to bring the attorneys back in-house. We have concerns about the time that it will take. We're talking about the State Bar ethics opinion, we may not even go that route. We may just adopt the old setup, and those are questions that still need to be answered, of course. But we do need to move forward in some fashion. I'm not talking about hiring people immediately. I'm talking about an authorization to bring the attorneys back in-house so that we can talk about phasing out the contract in a responsible way. These are all big issues, but if we don't have direction from the board, I'm not sure how to proceed.
Okay. Mr. Lutz? Did you have another?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to ask...
Well, right now, there's a motion.
I know.
In a second. Okay. Very good.
I'd like to ask the maker of the motion, okay, to amend it to move this to next week's Personnel and Judicial Committee meeting, where we could then move it to the special board meeting after that meeting and still handle the issue, but give the commissioners and administration and courts if necessary, and the prosecutors time to discuss that a little bit more with the commissioners so that we'll be better prepared to make that decision a week from now rather than will a week be a problem?
I don't believe we'll have much more information in a week than we have today.
Commissioner Conan.
You know, I'm hearing one side of the story. Are we, and I've heard other things, do we think we can do a better job in-house? I mean, that's the only decision we're making, is whether we think we can do a better job in-house and you know, we gotta vote on something. We're not voting on this plan that the state court's put together. We're voting on a plan whether we're gonna bring it back in or we're gonna continue to outsource it. Is that accurate?
Right, and the concern is not that we can't do it in a contract fashion. The concern is that we want more oversight, and we believe we can only do that through in-house attorneys.
Commissioner Herrick.
Judge, would you feel better if you had another week? Would that help? If you had a week to discuss this with administration?
I think any additional time will help, Commissioner. Again, I keep referring to this meeting last week, which was restricted to assigned counsel and administration. I'm not saying I should have been a part of that meeting. I'm saying we should have been involved beforehand, but we haven't been really involved at all. So it's hard. And let me be clear too. I'm not infringing on your right to determine what you do with indigent defense. That's your job. And having sat there with Mike and Kim and Vaughn, and you know, the last time it was said we were going to save money by taking it out of house, which I think we have. Now there's new rules, there's new players. But there's just so much that's gone on without the input of the stakeholders. And that's where my concern lies. I mean, to the point that those representing our misdemeanor clients now weren't even told that this was coming down the pike. I mean, to me, that strikes me as unprofessional. But it's just one of many things. And I just think if we were drawn into the conversation, we could resolve this a lot better. I know you're hearing a bunch of opinions here, but the bottom line is that we just don't know enough. And maybe if we got all our heads together, we could resolve some of this.
Commissioner Tilley.
I would, if the maker of the motion would adhere to what Commissioner Lutz has proposed to move this 1 week down the road, I would like to see this moved 1 week, and within that week's time, the judge is included in the conversations with administration and corporate counsel, so that I don't think 1 week's going to change much on as far as our posting it, and I think it'll satiate. I guess all good government comes through compromise, and I think this is a compromise solution, and I'm in favor of moving forward with the compromise and move it to next week. And within that week's time, let's have the parties that are involved have those conversations that need to happen.
Commissioner Begic.
I'm skeptical that we'll get it done in a week, but I'll go along with the motion.
We can always kick, we can always
amendment.
punt if we have to again, but let's move it a week and see what we have to do.
Any further discussion? Commissioner Lutz.
That's what the point that we would have it all on both agendas, right? A special board meeting and
After.
personnel.
Okay.
Just for clarification, you're talking about the revised resolution?
Revised motion, not the original motion that we were given.
Debbie?
We tentatively have scheduled a meeting with administration and Judge Clyda, but the meeting is not until Thursday of next week. So that's not going to help as far as the schedule is
She said
concerned.
they don't have a meeting with you until next Thursday, and you're scheduled before then?
I sent her a variety of dates and times, and that must be what.
That was the best date for everybody because of the board meeting on Tuesday. I didn't think the 3 o'clock meeting would give you enough time to talk before the board meeting, so.
I'm willing to meet over the lunch hour, come in early, I'm in early every day, so I'm, open that up, and Debbie, if you want me to.
It would have to be Tuesday then, it would have, right? It would have to be Tuesday because we're closed for the holiday.
On Monday.
On Monday, so.
Commissioner Lutz. It presents a problem.
What presents the problem?
Well, them not being able to get together before our next board meeting.
Well, they said if they could meet Tuesday morning.
Okay. If you think that's going to persuade, or whatever.
It's a step in the direction.
We'll get
All
it
right.
scheduled.
All right. So again, this is administration's issue to deal with, and we're trying to be supportive. And I think we're pretty much all in lockstep that we're going to bring this back in-house. So I think that's a given. It's just all these other rules that are going along with it. So if there's no further discussion, what we'll be doing is we'll be referring this back to next Tuesday's meeting for Human Services with another meeting to follow to address the issues. So if we're all in agreement with that and there's no further discussion, all those in favor signal by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Judge. And Barb, nice meeting you. I'm always impressed with a woman with a big stick, so we're good to go.
And with that, Mr. Chairman, that is all the personnel and human services has.
Gee, Commissioner, you've made up for time that was short in the past, so very good. So we'll move into Board of Commissioners. Commissioner Tilley.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have Resolution 2016-57, report to the county executive. I so move this resolution.
Support.
Discussion. With none, all those in favor signal by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Is there a mystical 2016-58 that's not sitting in front of us? No. So there's no other one. That would conclude business then from the Board of Commissioners, Mr. Chairman.
That would be good. So we'll move into reports of county officials and department. Anything from the county exec side? Nothing. Tom's not here. Nothing from Deb, or Shauna, or Kristen. So let's move into unfinished business. Is there any unfinished business? How about new business? Anything under new business? I do want to mention that Pat Beeson, who has served on Region 7 for a number of years, is up, and I am going to reappoint him. He has done an outstanding job there. He he blends in well with the older crowd. So I'm just kind of out of courtesy letting everyone know that I will be getting in touch with him and we'll be renewing his time. Anything else under miscellaneous? Announcements, I have a couple. In March, we have Bay Aranac Behavioral Health Authority. There's a position coming up, it's a 3-year term. And actually, we have 3 of them. We have Starkweathers, we have Dick Burns, and we have Bob Pavlik. That'll be coming up. Then in June, we have a library board appointment. There's a 5-year term that's currently being served by Don Carlion. In October, we have a Lang Bank Authority, it's a 1 local unit of government representative, and Dick Burns is currently in that position with the 3-year term. And then under the Department of Health and Human Services Board of Directors, we have a 3-year term currently held by Mr. Starkweather again. And then in December, we have a Division on Aging Advisory Committee. There's 4 2-year terms, Districts 2, 4, 6, and 1 at large. And I believe, Shauna, we have a reason to have closed session.
Yes, Mr. Chair, I'd ask for a closed session pursuant to MCL Section 15.268, Section E, to consult with its attorney regarding trial or settlement strategy in connection with specific pending litigation, but only when an open meeting would have a detrimental financial effect on the litigation or settlement position of the public body, to discuss Cynthia Luzak versus Tom Hickner, Bay County Board of Commissioners, 18th Judicial Circuit Court, Kim Mead, Bay County Court Circuit Administrator, and Cynthia Luzak versus Tom Hickner, County Executive, and the Bay County Board of Commissioners.
Very good. Motion to go into closed session?
Support.
Pardon?
I think you need a voice vote.
Yes, we do. If you'd take roll, please.
Start with Lutz today.
Yes.
Lutz. Durancheck.
Yes.
Spigot.
Yes.
Coonan.
Yes.
Garrett.
Yes.
Tilly.
Yes.
Krieger.
Yes.
7 yeas, 0 nays.
Thank you. Mr. Durancheck.
He is.
Ready? All right. Commissioner Tilly.
I'd like to make a motion. John?
To proceed as recommended, to proceed according to the recommendation given in the closed session with regard to Cynthia Luzak versus Tom Hickner, Bay County Executive, Board of Commissioners, 18th Judicial Circuit Court, and Kim Mead, Bay County Court Administrator, and Cynthia Luzak versus Tom Hickner, Bay County Executive, and the Board of Commissioners in the Court of Appeals.
So moved.
Discussion. With none. All those in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion. Yeah. Yeah.
I don't have it.
Well, let's make it official. So I need a motion to go back into regular order, please.
Or
Discussion. With none, all those in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So maybe we should go ahead and redo the, just to make sure that we got the right sequence. Yep.
Make a motion?
You can do this.
To
You're a
proceed-
mother.
To proceed as recommended in the closed session, in the cases of Cynthia Luzak, Bay County Clerk versus Tom Hickner, Bay County Executive, and Bay County Board of Commissioners in the Court of Appeals, and in the case of Cynthia Luzak, Clerk versus Tom Hickner, Bay County Executive, Bay County Board of Commissioners, 18th Judicial Circuit Court, and Kim Mead, Bay County Circuit Court Administrator.
So moved. Thank you.
Discussion.
You have different support here.
I move.
Yeah, you got different support. Okay.
Okay. All those in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Motion to adjourn.
Discussion. With none, we're adjourned.
That was nice.